Maggie and I started the journey of Taika translations way back when we got married. And it's going to be 16 years this September. Maggie, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure that's right. So, September 12th, 2009 or 2010, whatever year that was, we got married. And that year we sat down as a couple and we decided, which is what, by the way, I advise any new married couple to sit down as a couple and talk about these things. You'd be amazed how many do not. And we decided to talk about what we wanted our life to look like, how we wanted our home to feel, and what she wanted, what I wanted, and what we wanted our new little home nucleus to be. And it was just Maggie and me at that time, and I was in the United States Air Force, and that was my job, and I loved it, and I just loved everything about what I did. And there were a lot of great leaders and examples that I got to learn from and be inspired by, and just to be a part of it. It was a really cool experience. At that time, we said, well, our preference was that Maggie would be able to work from home. And so she started to look around, figuring out some different things that she might be able to do. She started doing some childcare, doing some cleaning some houses. She started to help me. We were like, well, we have some extra time. Why don't we do some extra stuff? So we started buying and selling vehicles to the United States military people that were coming and going. And we found out we could make a little profit on that. And so we did it. And then we decided at one point to get out of the United States Air Force. And all the while, the little translation business, the seed that was planted in the back of our minds, Maggie said, well, I had this education, maybe I can try to do some of that. And so she started doing that, started finding a couple clients here and there, finding some opportunities online where she could get registered, like pros.com. She found that. And at that time, got registered and started working and just seeing what opportunities were out there. And when we got out of the Air Force in 2012, we went back to the United States, hoping that the business with my family would work out. But as is very common in family business, especially, which I don't want to say I'm not a proponent of family business. I'm a very, very strong proponent of family businesses. I love them. I think the family business inside the family circles are the strongest and most powerful businesses in the entire world until this day. There are families right now that have run businesses for generations, built long, long ago, and they are billion, trillion-dollar businesses now run by their family members, and they're some of the strongest businesses in the world. And I think that's a very valuable and very God-given ministry and enterprise. But my family couldn't do that, decided that they would not do that. And so while we were doing that, my father and my brothers, I mean, and so while we were doing that in Texas, we had this little business that had grown from when we started our marriage and sat down and decided what we wanted life to look like. And then we started step by step bringing in more clients. Maggie would email a new client, and Maggie would connect with a new client. Maggie would have a phone call with a new client once in a while, and she'd be sending these translation projects off and getting them back. It's like, hey, Jason, I made an extra $100, or I made an extra, $250 or $500, and this was a really cool thing that I did. I was like, man, that's really cool. Some of the time she would make more than what I made working with my family, which was very bad. When it came apparent, when I got fired from the air conditioning company because my father was jealous about the influence I had over the team and the success that I experienced without his input, it made things go really badly for them, and I got fired. And so at that time, Maggie and I again got the opportunity to say, okay, well, what are we going to do? We built this house on my parents' land. Now they're saying they won't give us a land. And what are we going to do? And how are we going to, go through this time? It's just Maggie's like, well, I still have I've still been doing our translation company all this time. In fact, my father asked me to tell Maggie to shut down our translation company while we were working in the AC thing so that it wouldn't distract from the AC company. And I was like, no. So I wasn't going to do that. And that also bothered them very much. And they wanted to force us to do what they wanted to do, which is why I just had to part ways, because I don't think anybody should be forced to do anything. You should do the things that you are designed to do and do them really, really well with great passion. And if you can't do that, then you should go do it somewhere else. And so that's what I believe very strongly. And that's why I believe that everybody working in their roles should do it with great passion, or they should go work somewhere else. They have no business working somewhere where they're forced to do their work. Nobody's forced to do anything. All right, so back to the story. So we went through the transition where I got fired, and a very scary period. It was like, well, I have no income. And then it was like, wait a minute. I wasn't hardly making any money anyways for the past 2 years doing the AC stuff. So what's the difference now? And just really looked internally to find out, okay, God, what do you want us to do? Asking God to guide us and give us wisdom and just direct our path forward. Because when you're in the situation where you don't have when you don't have a job and you don't have your path set before you, you can go any direction. That's the wonderful part. You can go any direction, but the problem is you can go any direction. So which direction do you go? So we very intentionally set out thinking about our vision for our lives. What do we actually want to be a reality? Well, we want to have many kids. We want to have we want to homeschool. We want to run our own business. We would love to be able to be our own bosses. And one day we want to own a ranch debt free. Okay, we understand that the ranch thing is very, very far off from that point. And so we said, okay, what do we do? What do we have accessible to us? And God, what do you want from us? And we took a look at all the resources that we had available, all the things that we loved, all the characters that we had, all the talents and skills of communication and financial management. And this thing, translation, just kept coming up. It was always there, somewhere in the background. Well, we have this translation thing, it's kind of making some money. We have this translation thing, it's kind of making some money. We have this translation thing, it's kind of making some money. And it was like, okay, well, we have this translation thing, it's kind of making some money. So what if, crazy idea, we invested all of our skills into this translation thing that kind of makes some money and see if we can actually make a business out of it. And maybe that will be our thing. And so many times in life, I think that's how God leads us along. It's through the circumstances of life, crushing circumstances that would otherwise destroy you unless you are His, God's, and you've built your life on a foundation of His principles. You're not going to let yourself be cast off in a world of depression and sadness. You're going to say, God is my God, and He is over everything, and He can control the variables that I currently face. I will trust Him. Trusting God is useless so many times in the wonderful, beautiful times of life when you feel like you don't need Him. Trusting God is most clearly manifest in the times when everything is shattered, it is all broken, crap hit the fan, and there's nothing you can do about the circumstances that you have gotten into, except make better decisions going forward. And so there we were at the bottom, looking at life and saying, God, we trust you, but man, this is bad. This is so bad. And God said, all right, translation company keeps coming up. Your future, you want to do that thing? You want to have this cattle ranching stuff, and you want to build a big family, be able to homeschool and own your own business. Well, you've got the skills to start doing that. You've got financial management skills. You've got taxing and accounting skills. Maggie got those skills before I got out of the Air Force. We've got bookkeeping skills. We've got a desire to lead people. We've got the Dave Ramsey EntreLeadership book. I had that at that time. You've got a structure. You've got discipline because you learned that throughout your lifetime. You love to work hard, and you are now very disciplined and structured because of a lot of the lessons we learned throughout the United States Air Force, and being in that system for a while, seeing that very corporate and very systemized structure and seeing how systems are needed. You've got all this experience. Now put it into something meaningful and let's get after it. So that's what we did. We took all the experiences that we had. We took all of the strengths and skills that we had, and we just poured them into Taika translations. And was like, okay, if this doesn't work, we don't have another option. There is nothing else that we have, that we can do, that we really want to do, or that we feel like feeds into the vision for our life. And so we said, okay, well, let's get about pouring into it. Let's do it. And so we started. And I started emailing clients, started researching who they were, what their names were, what their pets looked like, and everything else that I could know about them. And then I started communicating with those people. Just started communicating. One by one, they started to respond like, oh, yeah, Maggie, we know Maggie. Yeah, your husband, Jason. Oh, nice to meet you, Jason. We've worked with Maggie for the last couple of years now. Like, what are you guys trying to do? We're like, well, we want to serve more languages, and here's the languages we want to serve. Oh, what's your rate for those languages? Oh, yeah, we can work with that rate. Oh, that rate's too high. And little by little, one by one, we started to try by fire the rates that we had for our languages and communicate with the clients. And by the time we got back to the United States, we landed, and 9 days went by, and we didn't get a single project. Not one single project, but our faith was strong. We said, all right, God, if you're going to provide, you're going to provide. You're going to provide. We're going to be able to make it through this. God, maybe, I'm not sure, but I really believe you can, because this is the direction we believe you want us to go. So I hope this is going to work. And we're going to trust you. So we're not giving up. And so we emailed and emailed and emailed and searched the internet and emailed and emailed and emailed and emailed. And if we could, we called to the people who needed work in our area. And again and again and again and again and again. Nothing came through. And then on the ninth day, it was like middle of the afternoon. Boom, a project came in from Colin. And it was $400. And we rejoiced. We were like, oh my gosh, we're saved. And project came in the door. And Maggie got the project. Got it outsourced, got everything done. And I was like, okay, now what do we need to do? It was like, Maggie was like, well, we did it. And I was like, what? We did it? Like, how did we do it? It's like, well, I got the project, checked everything, outsourced it. Now I'm waiting for it to get back. Once you get back, then I'll send it to I was like, okay, well, what do we do now? It's like, we just wait. It's like, okay, waited 2 days, finished it, sent it in. And after that, each day, another client and another client and another client would send us projects. And you got to learn about how the project management process worked and how to learn how to process projects and different kinds of projects, and then getting into the software and all that stuff. And it started us on a journey that no matter what the challenge was, we would never give up. And that's the theme of the video, by the way. If you maybe I didn't make it clear from the beginning, but I'm talking about, I'm sharing with you the origins of never giving up. We never give up on, we wanted to have a dream. We had a dream as a family. We wanted to be able to have a lot of kids, homeschool, build a ranch, have a farming element to our life, and grow a very profitable business that changed our lives, and that where we could serve other people. Because I didn't want to have the experience that I ever again, and I didn't want anybody else to have the experience that I had when I was working with our family in the States, of being constantly disrespected, being forced to do things that I did not want to do, being pressured to be someone who I was not. And I didn't want to ever have to do that. And I wanted to create a company that would enable others to be able to do the same, to use their strongest talents and skills, to amplify them to their maximum, and profit and benefit for themselves and their families from that. That's what Taika came about. And from the very beginning, we never gave up on that idea. It was never an option that we would not be able to realize that in our life, that it must be true about us, because that is what we believe God made us for. And we're going to create this, live or die. And so we started that journey back then, taking those steps and pushing through countless situations where it was just too tough, and there wouldn't be a way to break through that wall. I remember one particular time, Maggie was pregnant with the fourth one. Anyways, and we were like, man, we can't stay up 20 hours a day or wake up at like 2 a.m. Like, how are we going to do this? Just to check some of the emails to make sure that we could get the projects in so that we could make a sale so that we could feed ourselves. And so he's like, okay, how are we going to do this? And he's like, well, Mike, why don't we ask him to log in and check the email? And so Maggie got on the phone call and she was like, okay, Mike, or we got on the phone call with Mike. It's like, hey, can you do this for us? He's like, yes, but I won't do this, this, and this. Like, he was really scared at that time to do anything else other than a very specific, like, I'll open the email and check or say yes or something. But other than that, I'm not doing anything. We started on that. He's like, okay, well, this is a problem that the point is, this is a problem that we needed to solve. Otherwise we couldn't survive. So we had to forge a way, guys. So we were never going to give up. We're going to create a way. So it's like, okay, get Mike and he can help us. And then there was another person, Maggie's friend from church. And we were like, okay, maybe she wants a job working with us. And so we grabbed her to come start working with us. And she started working with us on the computer online. Come to find out, like 4 months later, she's like, I can't work on the computer. This is crazy. I have to go make beds in a hotel because working on a computer is just too nuts for me. I was like, okay, I would never want to do that. And I would never trade that lifestyle for that. But whatever, if you want to do that, fine. One by one, we started to encounter challenges in the company. And we made a profit the first year. Then we made a profit the second year. And then we made a profit the third year. And the fourth year. And the fifth year. Granted, the sales went up and down. Granted, there were better months and worse months. And there was always, in every single year, 1 month that was the lowest. Makes sense, right? But when you think about your business, you never want to think there's going to be a lower month than the previous month. But there was always a lowest month, and it was always inconvenient and scary. And so looking ahead, whatever the horizon gives to us, whatever the reality that we find ourselves in, we're going to make the next best decision, because that's the way we've always done it. And We always have done it, and it's always gotten us through by the power of God, hard work, and intentionality. And so we intended to never give up in the face of great adversity. And it reminded me of the story that Winston Churchill, he went to speak at, I think it's called Hathrow College, and it was a school that he grew up in. And they asked him to come speak at the event, and they said, "Do you have a message for the people from our school?" And he's like, "Yes, I do have a message." He walked up on the stage and he says, "Never give in." Like, that's it. He's like, "Never give in. Never, 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 in nothing great or small, petty, large or petty, never give in, except to convictions of honor and good sense. Never yield to force, never yield to the apparent overwhelming might of the enemy. And if the enemy in business is failure, never yield to the apparent overwhelming might of the enemy." And we don't yield to that. That's why when we sat down with our leadership team to clarify what is one of our core values in our company? How do we behave when the going gets tough, when it's good and when it's bad? How do we behave when we don't want to attend that meeting? And how do we behave when we have to deliver on a client? Or how do we behave when our sales are horrible? How do we behave? What do we embody? We never give in. We never yield to the apparent overwhelming might of the enemy. If the enemy is failure in our company, or the enemy is a poor team member performance, or inefficiency in our processes, or the vendors have all screwed us and they completely failed on everything and we've got to redo everything, we never yield to the failure, the apparent overwhelming might of the enemy. One of the reasons why, because our God is far greater than any overwhelming might of any enemy. And that will be intrinsic to who we are as a team. And if we embody that, we can weather whatever storm of business, of life, of challenge that we will face as a team and as a company. Work with that sense of dignity and honor and passion. Because you work with people that have been through hell and back in so many circumstances, whether or not you see it today. The team members and the leaders that have forged Taika Translations have been through incredible, powerful, painful times. And we've come out victorious every single time. And that's why I know that our company can prosper beyond our wildest imaginations moving forwards, because we never give up.